Hello and welcome to the third and final episode on the All Secure Expo. I'm Gerard Conway, and today on Talking Events we'll speak to Catherine Beck from Clarion Events, Jessamy Ganesh from Reed Exhibitions and Faye Sumner from Informa Markets. Well, I've been looking forward to this session the most out of all of them. We're going to take a deep dive into the operational decisions of All Secure Expo. And I think I speak on behalf of the entire industry when I say thank you, first of all. I know how much hard work and effort went into this, kind of the very late nights and even Faye missing a holiday to be able to deliver this. I've been referring to this as a triumph of collaboration throughout all of these sessions. Catherine, I'll come to you first. How did it feel to be involved in such an important project?
Oh, I'm not going to lie, I was really excited, more because it was to do, I'm a health and safety geek, so when I got asked in to run a show to help kind of put confidence in the government about how our events could run safely under COVID measures, I was like, awesome, great, yeah. So yeah, I was really excited about it.
Yeah, so like Catherine, I felt really proud that I was able to make a contribution to trying to get our industry back up and running. It's been so heartbreaking to see the impact that COVID-19's had on our industry and people's lives. So I was obviously happy to help and do what I can to support an industry that I love.
Yeah, a massive career highlight for me. I've worked in the industry since graduating and I've had some great opportunities, but this one definitely up there. I think to start off with, it was like, oh my goodness, like, do not mess this up. But I think at the end of the day, you are just delivering an event, and you would always deliver any event to the same standard. So it was trying to remove from the way of thinking, like, what you are delivering and just do what you would normally do.
I think it's also quite fair to say that this wasn't your normal team. What was it like working together?
Yeah, really good. So I already knew Jessamy. I used to work with Jessamy at Reed. Catherine and Nikki were great. I think it was strange to start off with because we're all operations people. We all want to roll our sleeves up, get the job done. And working in our ops, we are all so passionate about what we do. And we all want to get the job done to the highest possible standard, and we all had that in common. And we all just had the same goal, really, in getting the industry back up and running. So yeah, the collaboration and working together was really good.
Well, yes, I'd been fortunate that I'd worked with Faye previously, but I hadn't met Nikki or Catherine before, and it was just so lovely to work with them all. And I always enjoy meeting my peers in this industry. We collaborated really effectively, bounced ideas off each other, without wasting our valuable time, which was really important because we had to make sure that decisions were made quickly, because we were very mindful that the decisions we were making was going to have a big impact as well on the venues and the suppliers. And we also just let each other get on with our own tasks, just to, again, speed up the process, but also reach out for advice if we needed. And we definitely wanted to try and avoid the issues of having too many cooks on this event.
Yeah, I felt the exact same way. At first, hearing that it's a collaboration between the top four and there's been an ops manager put forward, honestly, I won't lie, my first thought is, who's going to be the diva? Who's going to be the one that just kind of goes all out on this event? But actually, no, everyone worked really well together. And I even heard someone drop in a thought in, 4 women working together, what's that going to be like? And I thought, hang on a sec. What evidence is there to say that 4 women can't work well together? So it's interesting seeing other people's perceptions of it. But certainly my experience was that there just wasn't enough time for egos or anything to come in. And I don't even think with the 4 of us that would have been something that would have come in anyway, because we're all very similar, like what needs to be done, who's going to do what, let's crack on and get it done. And it worked really well. And yeah, like Jessamy said, we all supported each other. It's not like we worked in silos, particularly because you've got such a short time scale to turn everything around. We were constantly bouncing things off each other and saying, does this make sense? Does that make sense? I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? So it was really, really good collaboration.
I think that's a really good point, because you were bouncing things off. There weren't any egos, and we could see that. And from a supplier side, we see it a lot. So we can quite quickly pick out what's happening. And you did work really well together, and under extreme pressure as well, if you kind of think about that. But I mean, you know, how were you communicating together? It was always very, very quick. We had a lot to do in a very short space of time. I mean, Catherine and I, we were kind of WhatsApping each other into the middle of the night. Like, and did you have kind of WhatsApp teams and everything to kind of get everything sorted?
I think we got briefed on the Thursday afternoon, and Friday morning at 10 a.m. we were all at the BDC together, sorting out roles and responsibilities, having a look at the setup, and setting up WhatsApp groups, sharing email addresses, and just starting to get the process working.
So we've got the All Secure standard. Again, another collaboration effort on that mammoth to be able to kind of restart events. And then it was time to put it all into practice. What was the process here of kind of adapting that documentation into a kind of a physical event?
So as Catherine said, the risk assessment was actually the first process, because this is actually what DCMS had requested to see first. So it's really important that we covered the All Secure guidance. So I was continually checking that against the risk assessment, and obviously sharing it with the rest of the team before submitting, to make sure that all actions were highlighted so they could clearly identify the areas they were responsible for, making sure the measures were delivered, or feedback to me that actually that's not going to be possible or that needs to change. Obviously, the All Secure document is a risk-assessed approach, which I understand that DCMS were reminded of when we submitted the document. So it obviously ensured that we're able to make any further changes to the risk assessment and to our planning if we needed later on.
I don't know how many times I read that document. Like, I have got everything right, and I'm making sure all the key things that were in your risk assessment were on the signage as well, because for this event, we wanted to shout about absolutely everything that we were doing. So there was a lot of messaging on the signage for those reasons.
I remember kind of in the lead up to this that we were in conversation. We started kind of having webinars with each other, looking through the plans. I remember having to kind of pitch what we were going to do from our side, what that kind of contactless approach looked like. But actually, we were just talking at that stage. We still hadn't had sign off. We still didn't have full confirmation that we were actually going to have the event on that said date initially. And then it turned out that we had 7 working days to actually deliver this, which is crazy if you think about that. Seven working days to actually kind of be able to deliver that. What challenges did you face from your side? I know we had some, but what did those kind of constraints mean from an organisation?
Well, for me, it was time scale and everything that we had to do in that time in a venue that I'd never worked in. And so the first thing I thought was, how do we build an event in 7 working days? And we can't rely on our suppliers to do things for us free, because we're in the middle of a pandemic and it's tight all round. So thankfully, Clarion already had a shell scheme event that had been sort of pre-built and ready for us to kind of jump on and use that as the event, which was awesome. So the only thing that we really had to do then was pull together the signage. That was a massive thing. Faye was involved in that. Registration was huge, trying to figure out how we get people in. Then we had to recruit our visitors, which were our peers in our industry. Then we had to find some exhibitors that wanted to come in, and it was great that we could reach out to our supplier community and get them in. And then just do all the normal things you do, like the event risk assessment, your traffic management plan, your security plans. Just do all the normal things that you would do for an event. So time really was running away with us, but thankfully everyone was in the same boat and everyone was just keen to get everything done as well as possible. So I don't know how we managed it, but we managed it and it came off and it was really, really well.
If you wanted to get everything right, you want to get everything spot on. So the signage and the approvals of the signage in that short space of time, and then your print deadlines. The supplier was brilliant. we're really fortunate that they were based on site as well at the BDC. So any last minute things we could do as well. But more, I think, in such a short time frame, communication is just really important. So we would, have a conversation at the end of every day, wrap up where we were up to, and also when timing is of the essence. I mean, I know I do it. I like to take loads on and be like, yeah, I can do this all. And then I had annual leave. And then I was like, I don't know if I can do all this all in this time. So I think that's really important to, especially when we get back up and running, when, our September, October, Novembers are going to be so condensed, that, we are all one big team. So if you've got a lot on, there might be someone that has some bandwidth. So some of the stuff that I did, I then, we very much kept the communication open between the four of us. And if someone had some time, we'd pass something back and then back again. So that was really good.
Yeah, we just had to change our mindset and prioritise, what's important, and remove the nice to haves. There was no time for that. Obviously, we couldn't have done it before without the support of the venue, BDC, GS, Aztec, Onward Displays, SAV, AO. We all worked really worked so hard together, and everyone understood the urgency and the importance to pull this together. And obviously anything else that was going on in my life personally and at Reed Exhibitions was just put on hold, and this absolutely took priority.
I remember having the conversation with my folks where we were talking about this kind of pilot event and the, I guess, kind of severity of this event. How important this was for events to be able to restart. And I explained the team, everything that's going on. And my dad, plain as anything, just went, "Son, I'm failing to understand the positive." And it was true, really. If you think about it, it is an incredible amount of pressure. Life was paused, and we had a kind of great support network, kind of in our teams. In the entire industry, everyone was willing this to be a success, and thankfully it was. Would you have done anything different if there was more time?
If I had more time, would I do anything differently? Not have booked annual leave, but then sometimes these things happen, and sometimes you can have a wedding and it's just something that can't be moved, and it just shows that as in this industry we just find ways around things, and it'll be all right on the day.
I mean, well, just picking up on what you were saying about you describing this to other people, in terms of, I know I said I was really excited to work on this project, and I was, but I definitely felt the pressure of it, because this was a group of four women from the industry coming together to produce a show that the government could walk away from without any criticisms. And the pressure of them walking away going, actually, no, that we can't open events if that's how it's going to run. I definitely felt that pressure. So it was really tricky trying to meet that. But in terms of doing anything differently, I don't think I would. I think we covered every angle that we were given. The government brief was kind of picking up on things that we'd thought about anyway, so there was nothing revolutionary in that list of what they wanted to see. It was more a question of, let's just put it into play and put it into practice. But then it was also good because our visitors were our industry peers. There's also that added pressure of our peers are coming on site to critique our work. And
I wouldn't have done it like that.
I know you wouldn't, but you've got to think about that. What have we forgotten? Because everyone is working on their own COVID plans and putting their own measures together. So there is that element of what have we forgotten that could be massive that gets highlighted. So I think what we did was amazing, consider the time scale we had. The only thing I would have liked to have done differently is having brought more of our suppliers in to act as exhibitors. And the only reason being is it was a great opportunity for them to touch base with all of their clients, and also it would have helped increase the dwell time on the show floor. But yeah, that's the only thing. Everything else I thought went really well. Jessamy? I'm not sure what
Yeah,
you think.
no, I agree. I wouldn't have done anything different, and it's not because it was a perfectly run event, because we did everything we were asked to, but also because sometimes there's a danger of having too much time and you end up overthinking and potentially overcomplicating matters, and having to organise this in 7 days, we didn't have time to overthink things. We just wanted to try and keep things as simple as possible, ensuring that we met the brief and the expectations. But you know what, thinking about it, I would really probably have liked to have had the opportunity to be able to show examples maybe of tables and meeting areas with protective screens. That's quite an important mitigating factor for our industry. So maybe it's just a small thing, but if we'd had more time, then we could have planned that and shown examples of how that can work for meetings.
It impacts many things, doesn't it? Those time constraints aren't necessarily just a case of what we're physically able to prepare and plan for, is what we're actually physically able to deliver. And also we have to remember at a time when we were in a lockdown. And we're trying to reach suppliers and partners to be able to do things, and they're not there. So added challenges there. I think planning aside, we're well aware of these challenges now that we kind of face. What were the physical challenges on site? What maybe kind of caught you off guard when you actually got to the actual event itself?
The physical challenges, as Catherine's mentioned already about the venue, BDC was actually a perfect venue to run this pilot, because obviously the infrastructure, I think, was there. A lot of the control measures were already in place. I think one of the physical challenges was the first time that many of us had actually experienced having to wear a face mask at an event. And if I'm going to be really honest, I found that quite challenging. This pilot event was an event for 300 people, so it did make me wonder about the impact that it would have on an exhibition floor with thousands of people. But we've all got used to wearing them now, and hopefully we'll be in a position in the second half of next year where we might not be required to have them in all area of events. But I would say, for me, the physical challenge was the communicating and the chatting whilst wearing the face masks.
When you're dealing with things, you can read a lot from body language and facial expressions. You've got none of that. Also recognising people, because it was the first time I'd met you and I was like, is that Gerard? But then I recognised your voice and I was like, yeah, it's Gerard under that mask.
Yeah, it's unique enough to be able to get away with it.
Yeah, do build up and breakdown, because normally you're not. You're on the show floor the whole time. You're walking around making sure everything's okay. And even though the BDC was a lot smaller venue, it still got really hot and messy under that mask. Yeah, that was a challenge. The physical challenges, other than that, were things like because it had been so long since everyone had seen each other, there was a lot of networking going on in the aisles, which was completely understandable. But given that the government were on site trying to assess how safe our events were, a lot of us were taken to walking around the aisles, just remembering, yes, this is great because it's an event industry event, but remember we're on site to talk about how this would run in a real event. So yeah, getting people to space out on site when everyone's just so excited to see each other was difficult, but it was managed really well, and everyone had really clear expectations before they came in that it was to showcase COVID. So I think that kind of taught us, going forward for our own events, how will we manage networking, because we need to allow space for that on site, because space in the aisles is going to be really tricky. So really that will be discouraged going forward. Then the other side of it, this wasn't really something that I noticed when I was on site, but it was definitely in the planning stages, that the existing spaces that were built on the show floor for the theatres could accommodate a set number of people within them. But then when you add in your social distancing element, then all of a sudden that space that we'd allocated was no longer fit for purpose. So there was a real question, even on site, we'd planned for the chairs to be 2 meters apart, but then you got on site and you saw what it looked like, and you just thought, this isn't going to be realistic, and we can't really pitch this to the DCMS as this is what it will be like. So knowing that our COVID risk assessment measures were in place to say, it will be 2 meters where possible, and then where we reduce that distance to say 1 meter, it will be in areas where, for example, we've got low traffic flow. So the conference areas were perfect for that because everyone's seated and we manage traffic in and out. So that was something that on site we changed from 2 meters down to 1 meter. But even then it was still like, we can't really fit that many people in here. So going forward, one of the lessons was very much look at our show floor conference areas and do we have enough space in there for what we want to do. So yeah, that was tricky.
And from kind of an outside perspective, kind of watching everybody work together, you all jumped in, got your hands dirty, so to speak, right? And I mean, Catherine was outside for a good couple of hours, luckily in the sunshine, putting stickers on the ground. And, you know, I'm quite happy to say that I made a mistake kind of during the planning phase where we were looking at our kind of queuing system. And actually, because of, we were effectively rolling out kind of time slots. And we had this kind of staggered entry and we were working in kind of these kind of groupings. But because we had one queuing system, effectively we had people from different time slots in different parts of the queue. We should have actually had multiple queue per time slot. But, you know, until you see certain things, like you were just saying then about kind of the actual seminars, until you actually see that in place, it's actually kind of very difficult to kind of see those things, I guess, ahead of time.
Yeah, but the queuing areas, that's a good point, because that was one of the things that none of us were sure how it would work until we were on site, because there are so many different variables around the queuing area in terms of traffic coming in and how we separate the queuing area for pre-registered versus where we put everyone that hasn't registered. And it was almost like we can't sort out this queuing area until we're physically on site. And everyone in ops is a grafter, and I think anyone would have been out there like just plotting down stickers trying to figure out where everything should go. So I think it was great for what we did, but yeah, sometimes there are things that you learn in hindsight, really. So I think we just had the relevant experience to know, well, this is how we think we're going to plan it on site, but let's not confirm anything till we're there and we've got security on site to tell us if the area is in the right place, and we've got health and safety on site to make sure we're not blocking anything. So yeah, definitely had to roll with it.
I think the registration process that we had in place, obviously Gerard, you took a lead on that. It really helped set the tone and the expectations, and it was important to get that messaging right. So all of the pre-show communications were sent out. I think that was achieved really successfully. So on site, everyone knew what to expect when they were coming on site, with the physical distancing, with the queuing, with the masks.
Yeah, 100%. And like Gerald, you'll know there were so many edits to the comms before they went out. Like, oh, just one more thing, Gerald, sorry. But it was so
It was clear, wasn't it? It was really
so
clear.
There were no queries coming from anyone on site, or there were no, so we published a sort of helpline before you came on site, and we literally had no one querying anything. So it was so important to get that right.
I think there's two things to this as well, because not only were we dealing with our industry colleagues, right? They were aware of the fact that this is the industry pilot.
Did help.
Behave and follow the instructions here. But also we're dealing, and this is something that we've kind of been like explaining with clients and kind of going through over kind of the past couple of months, right? That people are more receptive to these things now. Like, and if they will actively engage with restaurants or different kind of entertainment areas ahead of time to make sure that they understand, okay, well, what is the process here? Like, kind of, do I need to wear a mask? Do I need to do social distancing? Kind of, what is the lay of the land when we get to these places? So it's a different landscape, I guess, kind of on the other side of things, right? But overall, how did you feel the event went?
The event, I think, ran really, really well. We did what we were asked to do. Everyone played their roles perfectly on site. All the venue, the suppliers, everyone, we couldn't have asked anything more from them. And I think, well, that's proof in that is the fact that DCMS signed off, didn't they, the pilot event with no recommendations for any changes. So to me, I think it means it was a success.
The fact that the feedback instantly on site was that the DCMS were really happy, they had no proposed changes. That was just a big tick and a massive relief, because I would have hated to be part of the reason why our industry couldn't open back up. So yeah, it's great that they have since announced that officially, that it went successfully and there were no changes. So yeah, really, really proud.
Yeah, and everyone was so enthusiastic, weren't they, to run this event and fully integrated to make it happen. Yeah, it was just really great collaborative approach.
Yeah.
Back in July, we'd been given the date of October for a launch. We have this successful pilot, which we now know it was deemed completely successful by the government. And then we had this devastating news of a further pushback. How disappointed were you?
Yeah, disappointed, but not necessarily surprised. I don't know. I think, lots of positive things did come out of it as well, despite not getting the green light for October. Really disappointed, but we carry on.
It's been a real roller coaster of emotions this year, and the government delaying the go date has such a big impact on our businesses and individuals. We're the best in the world at running events, and it's been so frustrating to see the lack of support compared to other industries. During the middle of the year, I had no hesitation at the prospect of going on site to Excel in November to deliver a show. Because of the All Secure guidance, the various industry working groups, conversations with our suppliers, venues, and all the planning that we've done internally at Reed Exhibitions, I knew that the measures we had in place would help ensure a safe environment, a lot safer, shall I say, than my local supermarket and the high street, and that which has made the delay really a lot harder to swallow.
Yeah, I think disappointed is a polite term. I didn't feel disappointed at all. I was livid. I was so angry, and it's not because I think we could run large scale events completely safely, and I get that there's a reason why large scale events might not be a good thing to have happened in October. I think the reason I was angry is because we just delivered a pilot event where there was no feedback about anything negative. There was no recommended alterations or anything like that. So I think as a minimum, the government should have at least allowed smaller events to open up, particularly when I see so many inconsistencies with other industries and how they're allowed to operate. I think if it was the same consistent approach across multiple industries, then I wouldn't have been as livid as I was. But I just felt like they didn't understand our industry. They didn't understand that even though they were on site and saw that we could run events safely, they didn't think it was appropriate to kind of apply that on some scale, like to keep some sort of lifeline coming into our industry just by opening up smaller events. It would have been so much better. But yeah, I was more than disappointed with that
these
announcement.
constant innovations that we're finding as well at the moment, and changes to the regulations as kind of we see kind of dates being pushed and tiers kind of coming into place. How long do you think that the All Secure standard will remain relevant?
I think it will always be relevant. It's written to provide considerations and guidance for input into a risk assessment. It's there to give us ideas to consider, not to prescribe what we should do. And we should always be reviewing the way we do things anyway, which is a risk assessment approach. And that's what the All Secure standard is based on. So yeah, it will always be relevant.
I think, with it being a risk-based approach, it's always going to change. It will always alter. Documentation like the E-Guide and the G-Guide, it constantly changes and we constantly keep it up to date. Things will naturally evolve, and hopefully we'll be in a much better place come September. But I really do feel it's easier to put the measures in now than it is to put them in later, or then to take them out later. So I think we carry on planning All Secure for how it is for our events for next year, and then we see where we land, and then it's very much easier to alter things than it is to try and wedge it back in again.
Yeah, agreed. I think the All Secure standard will be around for a fair while, and it's not to say that it won't evolve with the innovations and changes coming into our industry. Like at the end of the day, it's a health and safety document, and all good health and safety documents evolve whenever there's a change. So it will continually be under review, but I've already used it to draft up my plan for ICE 2021, and it's just it's a base point, it's a starting point, and then at least we're able to tweak things as and when things change. So yes, I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon.
And finally, 2020, it's been challenging in so many ways, but the All Secure standard, the Expo, it made such an impact on the industry. How optimistic are you for 2021?
I'm hopeful for 2021 to be better. It's really hard though, because it's great that we've been allowed to run events again. Like, that lifeline is open up to our industry. However, I don't trust the government. I still don't think they understand the amount of planning that goes into our events, and how much notice we need, and how you can't just drop an announcement to say yes you can run and then expect us to pick up instantly. So I think it will be hard. I think larger events will find it harder than smaller events. So I think we'll probably see a lot of people maybe pivoting their offer to put on a host of smaller events rather than larger ones.
You know, it definitely is going to be a tough year, and I think we're going to see the effects not just in 21. It's going to take us a while to realign. Shows have pushed back next year. That will then have an impact then onto 22 as well. But I think, one thing, if I look at my team, for example, we are a much closer, tighter, more aligned team than we were before this. So I think it stands us in like really, really good stead for a slow start to the year, but definitely a hectic one at the end of the year. For sure.
I'm feeling optimistic about being able to start running events again because of the All Secure document. I think it's safe to say that we all understand how events are going to look and feel in 2021. But I think it's going to take us time to fully understand the impact that COVID-19's had on our industry. What I have seen this year is how the industry has really come together to help and support each other. There's been so much more collaboration, which just proves, I think, what a resilient and fantastic industry we work in, and why I fell in love with it.
I just wanted to say thank you all for taking the time to speak to us. It's been really insightful, like kind of all of these sessions, and I hope this is useful to the wider industry.
No worries. Thanks for inviting us on.
Thank you very much to Catherine, Faye and Jessamy for taking the time to talk to us. As joint operations managers for All Secure Expo, it was really great to see how well they work together and under such time constraints. I'd personally like to thank the team at the Business Design Centre, Informa, Reed, Clarion and Hive, as well, of course, as my colleagues at GES for helping to deliver the UK government pilot. I hope to see you next time on a future episode of Talking Events. See you soon.